Hey guys, so I'm pretty sure y'all thought we were dead. Well,
surprise, motherfucker!
And we're back with another episode of Rogue Deck Rundown, and today we'll be going over the Ritual Beast archetype. So the deck is basically a wind attribute deck that's split up into Ritual Beast Tamers and Spiritual Beasts. Notice how you can't spell the word spiritual without ritual. That is important whenever you're searching out cards. So to keep this kind of concise, I won't explain every monster in the archetype. I will explain though that the Tamers specialize in bringing out your Spiritual Beast monsters, and your Spiritual Beast monsters are there to basically set up your banish zone. So all of these monsters have a common effect. All of them can only be special summoned once per turn, and the reason for this will become really apparent once we continue on with the video. So the main sort of gimmick of the deck is that you have Tamers and you have Beasts, which you banish to contact fuse into your stronger fusions, Ulti Ritual Beasts. In our arsenal we have Ulti Apelio, who acts like a Star Eater. We have Ulti Petalfin, who provides a 2800 booty and built-in protection from effect destruction. And finally we have the MVP, Ulti Canahawk, who allows you to return 2 Ritual Beast cards from your banish pile to your grave in order to search for any Ritual Beast card in your deck. All your fusions have a common effect to where they can tag out during either player's turn. And what I mean by tag out is they can return themselves to the extra deck and special summon a Tamer and a Spiritual Beast from a banish zone, as long as they haven't been special summoned already. So if you get bottomless or you get targeted by a destruction effect, it's all good in the hood. You just tag out and you proceed a combo from there. So now you should kind of understand why having that limitation to where your main deck monsters can only be special once per turn is super important. Now in this deck, traps are king. We have 2 theme-specific traps, which are both searchable. You have Ambush and you have Steeds. So let's go over Steeds first. Steeds allows you to pop monsters on field up to the amount of Ritual Beast monsters you control. And the reason it's so great is because it doesn't target. So you don't choose the monsters that you want to destroy until resolution. So this makes some pretty sick combos with your fusions and their tag out effects. You can activate Steeds, chain your tag out effect, and then destroy 2 monsters instead of 1. Next up we have Ambush, which allows you to special summon a Tamer and a Spiritual Beast from either your grave or your banish zone. Either or, really, they can be in both or either or. So that's why it's really great. It has almost no limitations. Whenever you activate it, you can't special summon other than Ritual Beast that turn, and you can only activate once per turn, which is really your only limitations. And really, it doesn't really matter since you're just going to be using it during your opponent's turn. Essentially what the card allows you to do is it allows you to set up for OTKs and really just stay in the game. If you're able to search it out every turn, it doesn't really matter what your opponent does to your field. You can get Raigeki, Darkhold, and you'll still have a way to stay in the game. So now let's get on to the fun part. How do you play this dang thing? So if you've been watching more than you've been listening, you'll probably notice that most of the game is spent on my turn. And at its core, the deck really revolves around a search loop with Ulti Canahawk, and that's why he's MVP. Now, before we go on, I really need to explain that Ulti Canahawk requires you to target 2 banished ritual cards on activation, but because of the way it's worded, it's not concerned with whether both cards make it to the graveyard or not. It really only needs 1 card to make it to the grave for it to resolve. So, because I think this process requires a bit of visuals, I've actually added a combo segment later in the video. And so for right now, just know that most of the plays will revolve around summoning Ulti Canahawk, searching, and chaining his tag out effect. Essentially what you'll end up doing is searching 2 to even 4 times per turn. Now this little loop is super self-touchy. It's kind of reminiscent of Infernities, to where you loop your shit and you end up with a field full of monsters and a field full of traps, and you're basically set up to OTK next turn. And I've actually had a few people quit on me because it can be really daunting just watching your opponent combo off. So because of the nature of the deck, what you should be worried about first and foremost is getting to a state where you build constant advantage out of that loop into where you can actually perform the loop every turn. I mean, the loop is basically the deck. You search out 2 or 3 cards per turn, and it's really overwhelming for your opponent. Now there's a couple ways where you can end up at a state to where you're looping every turn, and really it can happen as early as first turn. If you open up Elder and Cannonhawk or Elder and Rampengu, those are two really good 2-card combos, so where you can just start your combos right away. Sometimes you end up with maybe Cannonhawk and E-Telly, and that's almost as good. Or really, it can be just as good. It really depends on how fast you can get your Bandage Zone set up. So cards like Cannonhawk and Rampengu really become key in establishing your Bandage Zone. So once you're at this state to where you can build advantage every turn, you basically try to control the board with Steeds and Ambush and set up for no DK, which honestly can happen as early as turn 2. So I'll let you guys finish this this duel, and I'll be right back with the pros and cons of the deck. So I really think like the deck's pros do outweigh its cons. First of all, the deck is super cheap. You can pick it up for $40, not including E-Tellies obviously, or Chidoris, which are super expensive right now, or at least to me as a budget player. And the deck is super fun as well. I mean, really, what's funner than playing with yourself, right? And the combos are super dirty, and the traps are exceptional, really exceptional for a deck that's kind of tier 2. And I really feel like the deck has a chance to compete, especially now that we're kind of in a trapless format. Necros doesn't run any traps. Burning Abyss are really low on traps right now. They're basically focused on just getting names on the field. And the only deck that it really has a problem with are Clipforts, because they run Floodgates up the ass. And really the deck has trouble with getting past cards like Vanity's Emptiness or Skill Drain. And that's basically one of the only cons that I have with this deck, is Floodgates can really kill you. Floodgates like Vanities or Imperial Iron Wall, which no one's running right now, to be fair. But, I mean, if they were, you'd basically be out of the game completely. And the most aggravating con that I have with this deck is that some of the hands that you get are god-awful. Really, sometimes you get hands where you can't even combo off, or I mean, this deck is really combo oriented, to where it's based on 2-card combos. And if you don't have these 2 cards, then you're set back a couple turns. If you can't get your loop started, you're set back a couple turns. You're kind of forced to make plays that you wouldn't normally do, especially if you open up with like a bunch of Tamers and E-Telly. I mean, what kind of shit is that? It's like, just no. So yeah, I mean, overall I do recommend the deck. It's viable right now, so I mean, why not play it? It's cheap, and we are getting future support, so there's that to look forward to. So yeah, I'll let you guys finish watching this duel, and I'll be back with a combo segment, as well as a deck profile and a description of some of my card choices. Alright guys, well I'm back, Here's a basic combo. All it involves is Elder and Kanahawk. First, you normal summon your Elder. You use his effect to get your extra normal summon your Kanahawk. And what you're going to do here is you're going to use Kanahawk's effect to banish a tamer other than Elder. Usually I like to go for Lara just because she's a 2k defense, and if I want to tag out, I have that 2k defense. I mean, it's really personal preference, but I think it's a good reason to tag out, or I mean to banish Lara. So you banish your Elder and your Kanahawk, and you special summon just any ritual beast. All you're going to do is tag out. So here I went for Dolphin. Tag out, special summon your Elder and your Kanahawk once again. You're going to reuse Kanahawk's effect, because why not? You're going to go for, this time, a Spiritual Beast. Go for a Pelio. You banished yet again, but this time you go for Ulti Kanahawk. And you're going to get your search on in just a second. So with Kanahawk, what you're going to do is you're going to target your Elder and one of the ritual beasts that you haven't summoned yet. So I'll target Elder, and I'll target a Pelio here. I'll chain Kanahawk's effect to summon Lara and a Pelio. That way the only card that gets sent to the graveyard is Elder, and you'll still get your search. You can search right here for either Ambush or Steeds. It doesn't really matter which one, because you're going to end up with both anyway. So I'll go for Ambush. And I'll use Apelio's effect to banish Elder from my grave. That way we have a pretty full bandage zone. You'll summon Kanahawk yet again. And you'll get one more search. So it doesn't really matter what you send to the graveyard at this point, because you're gonna end up having Ambush to just recur everything back. And here you can go ahead and search Steeds. That way you have both an offensive play for next turn and a defensive play. And if everything goes your way, you are going to be able to basically OTK by your next turn. If you're able to start your turn with 4 monsters, meaning that you're able to tag out your ulti Kanahawk and Ambush, you're basically set to OTK during your opponent's turn, or during your next turn. So here I'll activate Ambush, special summon my Elder and my Kanahawk, and I'll go ahead and use Apelio's effect to banish one of the traps that are in my graveyard. Keep in mind that Apelio is a quick effect, so I'll do that during my opponent's turn. And let's just say it's my turn again, and I'll draw for turn. So this OTK is pretty simple. First off, I'll go ahead and use Apelio's effect again to banish, and I'll get that 500 boost. They do stack, so if you use multiple Apelios per turn, they do stack. So that's the first 500. I'll use Kanahawk's effect, and I'll banish a Rampengu. There you go. And now I'll summon my ulti Kanahawk. About to get my search on. So, with ulti Kanahawk, I'll target one of the traps and my Kanahawk. That way my trap goes to the graveyard, and I'll chain ulti Kanahawk's effect, targeting Lara and my regular Kanahawk, and only my trap goes to the graveyard, and it still resolves. Pretty nutty. here I'll grab a Wen, because she is an integral part to the OTK. And I'll use Kanahawk's effect again, and I'll banish a Wen because we don't have her in the banish zone yet. So basically what you want in your banish zone is 3 tamers and 3 spiritual beasts that you can summon. That way you get the most amount of searches with ulti Kanahawk. So I'll go ahead and summon another one. Kanahawk all day. And I'll use his effect yet again for another search, target the other trap, as well as Rampengu, and then chain Kanahawk's effect yet again, summoning Rampengu and your Wen, and then sending your ambush to the graveyard. So that is your second search right here. And I'll go for Bond. Bond just ensures that your OTK goes through against cards like Valkyrus, or if your opponent has it, so Scarecrow, which, I mean, you never know, but Valkyrus is really the main thing you're trying to go through. Next we'll use Rampengu's effect to banish an ulti Petalfin and send a regular Petalfin to the graveyard. That way you don't draw it, and you'll end up banishing it later on right here. So you can use it for next turn if your OTK doesn't go through. So next up, you'll go for another Kanahawk. The more Kanahawks, the better. And so I'll target my ulti Petalfin and target my Lara. This time you won't end up chaining his effect because you don't have any more any tamers to special summon, and you'll get your search for ambush or steeds. You'll end up searching for both, it doesn't really matter. And that's your third search for the turn. So that's already 3 searches. Here we'll go for another Kanahawk. Use it search again, why not? As long as you have the ability to tag out, you should be in a safe position. So I'll go ahead and search for steeds this time. And that is 4 searches in 1 turn. So that is completely crazy. If you think about it, we started the first turn with 2 cards, and now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 cards. 7 cards. My bad, I don't know how to count. So, and there's your OTK. Use Apelio again. And that way you get 1,000 boost on each one. And altogether, let's count this out. First you attacked with, let's say, Kanahawk. Then with the other Kanahawk. Then with Wen, and then Apelio. And altogether, it should be 10,100 damage. So if you're able to get your opponent's board clear, which really isn't too hard to do with steeds, and you're able to preserve your tag out effect and start your turn with 4 ritual beast monsters, you're basically set up to OTK, and that's pretty crazy. And you end up with 4 searches that turn, so it's really, really nutty. Hey, so if you guys are here, really makes me really happy, because I mean that was a really long video. So I'll go ahead and explain this deck list real quick. First off, I run 2 Apelio. I don't run 3 because that's overboard. You don't really want to see it first turn. You really just want to banish it. Next up, I run 3 Rampengu because it combos with Elder the same way it combos with Kanahawk. It's a little bit worse, but it gets the job done. Run 3 Cannon Hawk because you really want to see him early game. He really establishes your banish pile. He makes your plays. I run 1 Pedal Fin because he's the worst out of the bunch, especially first turn. He doesn't really do anything for you first turn. Like I said, what you really want to start off with is a Cannon Hawk and a way to get into one of your tamers. Next up is Wen. I run 2 Wens because she's bad early game, but she's really good mid to late game. And for if you just search her when you already have pieces banished already, you run 3 Elder because he's really your key to getting a first turn playoff. If you open up with Elder and Rampengu or Canahawk. I run 2 Lara, same reason as Wen. Something to mention is Wen and Lara are good first turn if you open up with either Foolish or Gold Star. Now, I run 1 Tempest. I know a lot of people say he's kind of like a win more card, but honestly, every time that I've had Tempest, it's just always been so good. It replenishes your banish pile, and I mean, this deck loves to be banished. So I could use, let's say I can use Cannon Hawk's effect, and maybe after Cannon Hawk's effect, I won't have a way to tag out. As soon as Tempest enters the picture, suddenly Cannon Hawk becomes live. So he's really useful. He's not just for OTK, even though he is excellent for OTK. So it's like a win-win. He banishes, and you do get a 24 beat stick on the field, and he's recurable. So I mean, it's great. Defissure because you can, and there is a combo with Elder, Rampengu, and Defissure on your first turn, where you can actually get up to you get 3 searches in your first turn. That's pretty crazy. I run 3 Typhoons because of Floodgates. You don't want to see that Vanity's emptiness or skill drain. Raigeki for almost the same reason, just to get past Vanities, or if Necros locks you out, you have Raigeki. Gold Sarcophagus to just banish any pieces that you might need, especially if you open up with Wen and that, or really just for any piece that you might need. Burial again for the same reason. More often than not, I'm actually using Burial for Tempest, since they're both 1-ofs. You're not going to see them too often. You'll either see Tempest or you'll see this. And usually when I see this, it's usually past my first turn, so I'll usually have a field already established, so I'll just go for Tempest, and that's really great. I run 3 E-Tellies currently. I go between 2 and 3 actually. 2 is good because I mean, you don't want to open up with too many tamers, and that's just like the worst feeling ever, and I mean, it's just terrible. But it is good if you open up with Emergency Teleport and Cannon Hawk, or Emergency Teleport and Rampengu. So I do run 3. You do want to see it, but you don't want to see it. It's just, yeah, it's just kind of one of those things. Book of Moon to get over locks with Necros, or I mean, just multi-useful, multi-utility. Bond to push through OTKs, Snatch Steal to Snatch Steal. Steeds, obviously 3 of. It's good even if you don't search it. Ambush, I run 2 instead of 3. I don't max out on it because it's kind of bad early game, especially if you have a bad hand. Macro, same merits as Defissure. I mean, it's just it breaks the meta. Trap Hole, Torrential Tribute. There is a combo with Torrential Tribute. If you have a Ritual Beast out, an ulti Ritual Beast out, and your opponent summons while you have a Torrential Tribute set, you can activate your ulti Ritual Beast to tag out, and you can activate Tribute in response to that, because you'll still be responding to the summon. That way it kind of acts as a Regeki, and whenever Torrential Tribute resolves, your Ritual Beast will actually resolve afterwards, so you won't get any of the negative effects of Torrential Tribute. Mirror Force, just to get over attacking monsters and to stall a little bit. I was running draw cards like Upstart and Reckless Greed, but I really found them to be too reckless, no pun intended. I would use Reckless Greed and I wouldn't draw into the things that I need, and that basically sets me back the 2 turns, and it's just so I kind of favored more defensive shit. UN 3 Ulti Apelio, 3 Ulti Canahawks, and 3 Pedalfins. You can go 2, or yeah, 2 is good. Either or, 2 or 3 works. 2, not 1, because you do want to use Rampengu's effect, and if you use Rampengu's effect with Pedalfin at 1, you won't be able to actually go into Pedalfin later if you need to. Run 1 M7, run Chidori, run Knight, Sky Blaster, Dagusto for some OTKs, and Cowboy. Usually I never touch the Exceeds. Sometimes I'll go into Chidori, just because, oh hey, I can go into Chidori. So there you go. Usually when I do that, I'm just close to OTK and I just really don't care. I'll just go into Chidori and use its effect, and it's all nice and dandy. But really, you don't really touch the black cards too much. So that's my deck profile, and I just realized I called Castel Sky Blaster. Yeah. Well, thank you. Bye.
Eso.